Beginning in report year 2017, Transit Asset Management, or Expanded Asset Inventory Reporting, is integrated into the NTD Online Reporting Tool, specifically within the Asset module of annual NTD report packages. All Asset module forms are denoted with an A. There are new forms and changes to the existing Asset module that we will review during this demo. As previously mentioned, these updates impact reporters that currently report to the NTD, as well as agencies that receive or benefit from Chapter 53 funds that may not be reporting to the NTD. This demonstration will cover all functionality associated with the new asset inventory, beginning with online NTD reporting instructions by forms and concluding with functionality specific to group TAM plan management. To streamline the new requirements, NTD has established two new reporter types in the NTD online reporting system: Reduced Asset Reporter and Group Plan Sponsor, or GPS. A reduced asset reporter is generally a transit agency that receives or benefits from 5310 funds, does not receive 5311 or 5307 funds, and operates public transit. These reporters will provide basic information and asset inventory data in a reduced report package. Group plan sponsors are designated or direct recipients of Chapter 53 funds that have coordinated a group TAM plan. There are two distinct types of participants in a group TAM plan: a managed participant or an independent participant. Managed participants are agencies that are not required to report directly to NTD. Group plan sponsors will report on behalf of their managed participants. This is already the case for 5311 subrecipients of state DOTs, but will also be true for other subrecipients of FTA funds who participate in a group plan. Group plan sponsors will edit and submit all forms for managed participants. In contrast, independent participants are existing reporters that report directly to the NTD per existing reporting requirements who elect to participate in a group plan. Independent participants will report asset information directly to the NTD in their own annual report package. Group plan sponsors will be able to view asset forms for each of their independent participants, but will not be able to edit these forms. They also will not have access to the rest of the annual report package. Before we review the new asset inventory functionality, we will briefly discuss the purpose of each form in NTD's asset module. The A90 form, Transit Asset Management Performance Measure Targets, is required for all Tier 1 providers as well as group plan sponsors. Agencies that are participating in a group TAM plan and have set their sponsor will not be required to complete the A90 form. Their designated Transit Asset Management sponsor will complete this on their behalf. Group plan sponsors will only fill out one A90 for the group. Targets that a group plan sponsor sets on the A90 will apply to all participants of a group plan, and these targets, as well as current performance measurement progress, will be viewable by all plan participants. The A15 form expands data collection on transit facilities. This form will include detailed information on all parking and passenger stations, as well as maintenance and administrative facilities for which an agency has capital responsibility. The A30 form, Revenue Vehicle Inventory, has been updated to include several new data points that are mandatory for transit asset management reporting. This form will include all vehicles used in revenue service, regardless of capital responsibility. The A35 form, Service Vehicle Inventory, is a new asset form that will collect data on service vehicles that are used to support revenue service. This form will only include vehicles for which an agency has capital responsibility. The A20 form, Transit Way Mileage, only applies to agencies that operate over fixed guideway. This form has been updated to include additional inventory and transit asset management reporting elements for agencies that operate rail modes. The A10, Stations and Maintenance Facilities form, is still required for all current reporters. This form will remain in the asset module and will continue to require counts of passenger stations and maintenance facilities used in revenue service. It is not required for reduced asset reporters. If you are an independent participant of a group TAM plan, You will identify your group plan sponsor during your annual report year kickoff. First, we will initiate a report year kickoff for the 2017 report year by logging into the NTD reporting system and navigating to Tasks. The purpose of the report year kickoff is to confirm your agency's users, transit modes, and reporter type before the year begins, and to make changes to any of the categories as applicable. On the Modes screen, you will select all modes of public transit that you operate and add a commitment date or the date that your agency first applied funds, committing to the construction and provision of revenue service. You will also add a start date or the date that public transit assets first entered revenue service. Do not add an end date if the mode is still active. Beginning in Report Year 2017, the Report Year Kickoff will also allow you to identify your group plan sponsor from a list of existing agencies in the NTD database. If your sponsor agency does not appear in the list, you have the option to manually enter their basic information. Completing the kickoff by associating your agency with the applicable sponsor will generate the appropriate asset module forms in your report package. Agencies completing an individual TAM plan should disregard this screen and click Continue. Note that identifying your sponsor does not mean you are required to report expanded asset inventory in Report Year 2017. You can set your sponsor in advance of participating in a plan beginning in Report Year 2018. Please also note that full reporters should have already completed the annual Report Year 2017 kickoff to report monthly ridership. Some full reporters may have also kicked off Report Year 2018, depending on their fiscal year end. If you are a full reporter and need to add a transit asset sponsor ad hoc, please contact your NTD analyst and identify the sponsor. Your analyst will coordinate with the sponsor to add you to the TAM plan. When you have completed the kickoff process, click Submit. The system will direct you to the Tasks page. Your NTD reporter profile and annual report package will generate within 5 minutes, typically sooner. To verify modal data, basic agency information, and manage user accounts associated with your agency, you may access the NTD reporter profile for your agency. This demonstration will focus on annual reporting, which does not include profile forms. For assistance with editing your agency's profile information or account management, please refer to the NTD user guide published on the NTD program website. To begin annual reporting, locate the 2017 report package by navigating to Records, then NTD Report Packages. You will see a list of all report packages that you have permission to access through your NTD account. If you are a group plan sponsor, you will have access to multiple packages and may filter the list by report package type. To access your 2017 package, click on the package with 2017 in the title. We are using the reduced asset package as an example, but the forms you see on this screen and associated system behavior apply across full, reduced, and rural report packages as well. As you can see on the report package dashboard, the reduced report package includes the Identification B10 form, Transit Asset Management Facilities Inventory A15 form, Revenue Vehicle Inventory A30 form, one for each mode, and the Service Vehicle Inventory A35 form. Now we will review how to complete each form in the Expanded Asset Inventory module. The first form we will review is the A90 form. The A90 form allows you or your group plan sponsor to enter performance target percentages for your agency's revenue vehicles, service vehicles, and facilities. These are performance targets for the end of the fiscal year listed, in this case 2018. If any of the populated fields do not apply to your agency, you can select the NA checkbox on the right side of the screen, which will cause the field to become unavailable. Please note that only group plan sponsors may edit this data for group TAM plans. Rolling stock is the first section of the A90 form. This section populates any vehicle types associated with your agency's active modes listed on the P20 form at the time the A90 is generated. You can report the targeted percentage of revenue vehicles for each vehicle type that have met or exceeded their useful life benchmark. You will report more comprehensive data for your agency's rolling stock on the A30 form. The second section on the A90 form is equipment. This section pertains to service vehicles. There are 3 categories under this section: automobiles, trucks and other rubber tire vehicles, and steel wheel vehicles. You may enter your targets here for all applicable service vehicles under these 3 categories. If any of these categories do not apply to your agency, you may select the NA checkbox. You will report service vehicle data in more detail on the A35 form. The third section is for facilities. This section covers passenger and parking facilities, as well as administrative and maintenance facilities. Here, you will report your targeted percentage for the facilities that are rated below 3 on the FTA Transit Economic Requirements Model Scale, or TERM scale. This scale ranges from 1 to 5, 1 being poor and 5 being excellent. You will report more detailed data for your facilities on the A15 form. The fourth section, infrastructure, will only apply to agencies that operate rail modes. This section will populate with any active rail modes on your agency's P20 form when the A90 is generated. You can report targeted percentage of track with performance restrictions here. You will report information on actual performance in greater detail on the A20 form. The TAM narrative report will be uploaded on the A90 form. This report allows agencies to provide more information and context on their performance against their targets. Towards the bottom of the form, there is an upload button which will allow you to select a document from your files. Once you have uploaded your narrative report, you must click Save and Validate to save your selected file. Once you have saved, the document will become a link that you can download and view at any time. As we continue through this presentation and update actual performance data on the asset forms, the A90 will also update. Actual performance will be shown on the A90 when all asset forms have been completed. Next, we will open the A15 Transit Asset Management Facilities Inventory form. The A15 form details the inventory of all passenger and parking facilities used in service and all administrative and maintenance facilities for which you have capital replacement responsibility. You must provide the following data points for all reportable facilities: facility type, year built or reconstructed as new, square footage, and the physical address. The system will provide you with a drop-down menu with several options to categorize your administrative buildings, maintenance facilities, and passenger or parking facilities. You may find detailed descriptions for each of these facility types in the NTD Asset Module Policy Guide on the NTD program website. You must report a primary mode for each facility. If a facility is dedicated to more than one mode, you must also indicate secondary modes for all applicable modes the facility services. You may also select one of 3 options for private mode if a private operator also utilizes the facility. The options are airport or private bus transit, private rail transit, or private water transit. If you have capital replacement responsibility for a facility, you must conduct and report a condition assessment. These are based on FTA's Transit Economic Requirements Model, or TERM scale. You must report all facilities using this scale, which ranges from 1 to 5. A 5 rating represents excellent condition, a 4 is good, 3 is adequate, 2 is marginal, and 1 is poor. For more information on how to conduct a condition assessment, please refer to the FTA Facility Performance Measure Reporting Guidebook. Once the condition assessment has been reported, please select the date the condition assessment was completed. Each facility must have an updated condition assessment every 4 years. If you share a facility with another public transit provider who reports to NTD, both agencies should include this asset on their respective reports. To avoid duplicate or inconsistent data for shared facilities, you may locate a shared facility in the NTD database based on specific criteria and add it to your report. Rather than selecting Add New on your A15 form to create a new facility, you would select Add Shared to identify the existing facility and add it to your report. After selecting Add Shared, you will enter the zip code where the facility is located, as well as the facility type from a drop-down menu. The system will then provide you with a list of all facilities that meet the specified criteria. Because you must include a name with every facility you report, you should be able to easily identify the facility you share with another agency from the list of available options. In addition to completing the A15 form, you must report performance measures for these facilities on the A90 form. Report the target percentages of your facilities that will fall below a 3 on the term scale. Following the A15 form is the A30 form. The Revenue Vehicle Inventory form will involve the same reporting requirements as it did in prior report years, and previously reported revenue vehicle inventory will be populated on the A30 form if applicable. Fields on the A30 include total vehicles and active vehicles in a fleet. Existing data elements by fleet include vehicle type, vehicle length, seating capacity, ADA accessible vehicles, manufacturer year, ownership type, funding type, and emergency contingency vehicles. Fleets that share these characteristics have historically been grouped by RVI ID. With the expanded Asset Inventory module, FTA has introduced an optional Agency Fleet ID field to allow labeling of vehicle fleets using agency-specific identifiers. You will see a new field in the A30 form titled Agency Fleet ID, where you may enter specific fleet titles or descriptions. The purpose of this new, optional field is to simplify the process of categorizing and locating your fleets in the NTD system. Furthermore, the NTD has included a notes section for all A30 forms, in which you may enter general comments regarding specific vehicle fleets. You must report the useful life benchmark for all vehicle fleets for which you have capital responsibility. The standard useful life benchmark for a particular vehicle type will automatically populate when you first select the vehicle type. For example, if you select bus as the vehicle type, the useful life benchmark field will appear with a default value of 14 years pre-populated. If the useful life benchmark for your particular vehicle fleet differs from the default value for any reason, you may update it in the system. FTA may contact you for additional information if the updates differ significantly from the defaults. You must report the year of manufacture for all vehicle fleets. Please note that you must report fleets by manufacturer year, not the vehicle's model year. When you make a selection for manufacturer year in the A30 form, the system will automatically calculate the number of years the vehicle has been in use and deduct this value from the useful life benchmark. The resulting difference represents the number of years of useful life remaining. Thus, if you select 2011 as the year of manufacture for a fleet of buses, the system determines that the vehicle has been in use for 6 years and deducts this value from the default useful life benchmark of 14 years, indicating that the fleet has 8 years of useful life remaining. You may not manually enter a value for useful life remaining. This value is contingent upon the year manufactured and useful life benchmark fields. NTD has also simplified the process of reporting vehicle fleets that are shared across 2 or more modes. In previous report years, users were required to manually add shared fleets to each applicable A30 form in order to link the fleets across modes. Beginning in report year 2017, you may navigate to an A30 form for any mode and select Add Existing Fleet. This will generate a list of existing fleets across all other modes. Please note that this list will exclude fleets with vehicle types that are not typical selections for the mode in question. For example, if you operate a fleet of over-the-road coach buses for your commuter bus mode, you would not see this fleet as an available option on your demand response A30 form, as over-the-road buses are not options for vehicle type under demand response services. Once the system generates a list of existing fleets, you may select all applicable fleets used for the mode in question. You would then select Add Fleet, which will transfer the selected items onto the current A30 form. In the case that your agency does not have capital responsibility for a vehicle fleet, you can select the checkbox for No Capital Replacement Responsibility, which will remove the Useful Life Benchmark section. This field will only be available for dedicated fleets on the A30 form. Now we will review the A35 form, or Service Vehicle Inventory form. Report all asset data related to your agency's service vehicle fleets in the A35 form. Service vehicles are any vehicles that support revenue operations, maintain revenue vehicles, and perform transit-oriented administrative activities for which you have capital replacement responsibility. Service vehicles must be roadworthy, self-propelled, or major pieces of construction equipment to be reportable to the NTD. This form is similar in format to the A30 form and contains similar fields. You must group vehicles into fleets if they are identical in all aspects. Similar to revenue vehicles, you must report vehicle type, primary and secondary modes, total vehicles, useful life benchmark, and year of manufacture for all service vehicles. The available options for vehicle type differ between revenue and non-revenue vehicles. On the A35 form, you only have the option to choose between automobiles, trucks and other rubber tire vehicles, and steel wheel vehicles. You will select the primary and secondary modes the fleet services as applicable. If the fleet is used across 2 or more modes, you must report one mode as the primary mode as well as all secondary modes. The useful life benchmark field will automatically populate depending on which of the 3 vehicle types you select. You also have the option to enter notes for all service vehicle fleets. In addition to basic fleet information, you must report a limited set of financial data for all service vehicles on the A35 form. Report what percentage of capital responsibility your agency has for each fleet. If your agency leases the vehicles but must pay a certain percent annually to eventually own the assets, such as lease-to-own arrangements, you should include those assets in your service vehicle inventory. Report the estimated cost of the entire fleet. This is the cumulative cost across all vehicles. Be sure to include soft costs, such as unallocated contingencies or finance charges. The dollar figure you report should represent your most recent estimate of the full cost to replace these assets. If you have not developed a recent cost estimate for your fleets, you may report either the original cost of the fleet or its insured value. The Transit Way Mileage, or A20 form, is only required for agencies that operate over fixed guideway or high-intensity bus segments. Here on the A20 form, the first section will remain the same as prior report years. You will select the mode you want to update by clicking Edit on the table for the corresponding mode. The first table for data entry will be the same as prior report years. This section collects the miles of track or lane miles for several categories specific to the mode selected. For modes like motor bus or bus rapid transit, you will report these categories in lane miles. For rail modes, such as commuter rail or heavy rail, you will report miles of track for each applicable category. There is a new section of the A20 form that will be required for expanded asset inventory reporting for rail modes. Agencies can choose to fill this out in report year 2017, but it is not required until report year 2018. For each rail mode that you report, you are required to provide data on guideway, power and signals, and track elements. You must report all track, including yard and side track. This section of the A20 form does not apply to non-rail modes that operate over guideway. For both guideway and power and signal elements, you must report the percentage or quantity of each reported element in age groups. This should represent the time period in which the element was constructed. The age groups range from pre-1930 to 2019 and are broken into 10-year age groups. This will be under the construction section of both guideway and power and signal elements. Depending on the element, you can select an allocation unit of linear miles, track miles, or percentage. To view each section, you can either select basic or construction under the guideway, power and signal, and track buttons, or you can click next section at the bottom of the page. This will allow you to enter data into the basic section and then click through to the construction section. Guideway is broken down into 3 main groups: at grade, elevated, and below grade. For each group, you will see several element types listed. You must report all guideway elements in the appropriate category. If one of the listed elements does not apply to your guideway for that specific mode, you can select the NA checkbox. These fields will then become unavailable for data entry. For each guideway element reported, you must report linear miles and track miles. This should include yard and side track, as well as track used in revenue service. You must also report expected service years when new for each element that you report. This field will represent the average number of service years for each reported element. You may report your own expected service years specific to your agency's condition and current environment. Lastly, you must report the percent of agency capital responsibility for each element. If you share capital responsibility with another NTD agency, you can select the agency and the appropriate mode by selecting the drop-down under the Agency with Shared Responsibility field. If the agency with which you share capital responsibility is not listed, you should select Other and then enter the agency and mode in the Other description section. The Notes section is also available for any other information or identifier for your agency. The Power and Signal section is where you will report data related to your power and signal elements. This will include a construction section to report element age. This will be similar to the Guideway construction section of the A20 form. Substation equipment, third rail or power distribution, overhead contact system or power distribution, and train control and signaling assets must be reported as percentage of the asset's total value by year range. Substation buildings can choose an allocation unit of percentage or quantity. The basic section for power and signal will include 5 categories: substation building, substation equipment, third rail or power distribution, overhead contact system or power distribution, and train control and signaling. For substation buildings, you must report the number of buildings under count. For the remaining categories, you will indicate whether or not your agency has these elements. If one of the listed elements does not apply to your agency for that specific mode, you can select the NA checkbox. These fields will then become unavailable for data entry. For each applicable power and signal element, you must report expected service years when new for each element that you report. This field is the same as the expected service years when new for the Guideway section. Lastly, you must report the percent of agency capital responsibility for each element. Again, if you share capital responsibility with another NTD agency, you can select the agency and the appropriate mode by selecting the drop-down under the Agency with Shared Responsibility field. If the agency with which you share capital responsibility is not listed, you should select Other and then enter the agency and mode in the Other description section. The last section on the A20 form is for track. Here, you will report track mileage in several different categories, as well as special track elements. You must report your track by the following categories: tangent revenue service track, curve revenue service track, non-revenue service track, and revenue track no capital replacement responsibility. You must report the amount of track miles for yard or side track in the non-revenue service field. This should represent all non-revenue track, regardless of capital replacement responsibility. Tangent and curve revenue service track should represent all tangent and curve track used in revenue service, regardless of capital replacement responsibility. The last section to report track miles is revenue track, no capital replacement responsibility. This should indicate the amount of track miles in revenue service for which your agency has no capital replacement responsibility. This field cannot be larger than the sum of tangent and curve revenue service fields. The condition assessment for track or infrastructure on the A90 form is the amount of track under performance restriction. A performance restriction is defined to exist on a segment of rail-fixed guideway when the maximum permissible speed of transit vehicles is set to a value that is below the guideway's full service speed. For further guidance on performance restrictions, please refer to FTA's guidebook and the NTD Asset Module Policy Guide. Under the Total section on the A20 form, you will indicate the amount of track miles under performance restrictions. This should only include revenue track that is under performance restrictions that your agency has capital responsibility for. You will not include yard or side track in this total, and you will not include any track for which you do not have capital responsibility. This amount will be pulled into the A90 form as a percentage compared to the amount of your total revenue track for which you have capital responsibility. After reporting the amounts of track for each mode on the A20, you will also be required to report the count of special track elements. These special track assets are outlined in 5 types: double diamond crossovers, single crossovers, half grand union, single turnout, and grade crossings. Similar to other sections of the A20 form, if one of the listed elements does not apply to your agency for that specific mode, you can select the NA checkbox. These fields will then become unavailable for data entry. You are required to report the total of each special element that your agency has under the count field. You must then report the expected service years when new, percent of agency capital responsibility, and the agency with shared responsibility if that applies to any of your special track elements. If you would like to upload your asset data in bulk, you have the option to complete a template provided by NTD and import this data en masse. The import feature is available for the A15, A20, A30, A35, and A90 forms, and functions in the same manner across each of these forms. By importing your data in bulk, you can avoid the process of entering individual fleet or facility data into the system. At the bottom of the 4 report forms mentioned earlier, you will see 2 additional options alongside the normal Save and Close buttons. These 2 options will read Import Data and Export Data. Using the A30 form as an example, if you would like to import revenue vehicle data in bulk, you must use the template generated by the NTD system. NTD will not allow you to import data from external templates. In order to generate the template, you must first select the Export Data button. This will prompt a blue download link at the top of the report form. Select this link to download a copy of the import template Excel file. If you have existing fleet data saved to the A30 form already, the file will contain the most recently saved revenue vehicle data. If you do not have any data saved to the A30 form, the template will simply contain the required fields. Once the template is open, enter your revenue vehicle inventory data as applicable. The fields in this template reflect the fields available in the NTD system. Please note that the template contains a basic level of data validation. For example, you may not enter negative values, unusually high values, or values not in accordance with the available options for that particular field. If the field requires you to choose a value from a list of options, for example, vehicle type, you may not enter a different value into that particular cell. When all required fields are complete for all fleets, save the Excel file to your desktop. Once you are ready to import the data into the system, select the Import Data button at the bottom of the A30 form. The system will navigate to an instructional page containing guidance for completing the import template. At the bottom of this page, select the Upload Excel button, select the file from your desktop, and select Open. If the data meets reporting requirements and does not violate any validation rules, the data contained in the import template will appear as such within the NTD system. If the data does not meet reporting requirements for any reason, you will receive an error message that details the issue. If you are an independent participant of a TAM plan, you will be required to complete, review, and submit your own asset forms. Your asset forms will populate in your annual report package. Your group plan sponsor will only complete the A90 on your behalf. Here on your report package dashboard, you will see your sponsor's A90 form under Group Plan Forms. The A90 is view-only for all participants. If you have questions about the targets or performance measures that appear on the A90 form, you should contact your sponsor. Submitting your agency's report package as an independent participant will be the same as previous report years. All issues must be addressed before submission, which is indicated by 0 total open issues in the Open Issues column. You will submit the report package by navigating to Records, NTD Report Packages, selecting your 2017 report package, and then clicking on Related Actions. Under Related Actions, if you have submission privileges, you will see the Submit Annual Report Package related action. Any open issues, non-validated forms, or incomplete required forms will populate and must be addressed before submission. Once the report package is complete and all issues have been resolved, you will click Continue and then Submit to submit your report package to FTA. All issues for which you have added an explanation will be reviewed by NTD and must be resolved before closeout. Next, we will cover reporting functionality specific to group plan sponsors. Please note that this section will not apply to you unless you manage a group TAM plan. If your agency currently reports to the NTD and is now a group TAM plan sponsor, you will see two report packages: your regular annual NTD package and your group plan sponsor package. Group plan sponsors will be able to access their GPS package by navigating to Records, NTD report packages, and then they will see a list of their packages. State DOTs will manage TAM participants under their annual packages and will not have a separate sponsor package under the NTD report packages page. If you report as a sponsor, you will confirm your participants during your report year kickoff. Please note that state DOTs confirm existing subrecipients as well as their TAM participants during the same kickoff process. States will have one link to complete both of these functions. Agencies who file their annual reports to NTD directly, but are also group plan sponsors, will complete this process in 2 steps. For example, an urban full reporter who reports annually to NTD and is also a group plan sponsor will have 2 links here under the Task tab at the beginning of the report year. One link will lead to the standard annual report year kickoff process, while the other link is specific to transit asset management for the group plan reporting. You will begin the report year kickoff by accepting the task and clicking Proceed. The next step in this process is to select all of the agencies for whom you will report asset data in Report Year 2017 and add them to your subrecipients grid. For group plan sponsors, the subrecipient type will default to Asset Subrecipient or 5310. State DOTs will need to select the subrecipient type, whether it is an asset subrecipient or an existing subrecipient type, such as rural general public subrecipient, urban or tribal subrecipient, or intercity subrecipient. Asset subrecipients previously were not required to report to NTD because they may not operate public transit services or receive 5311 funds, such as agencies who receive only 5310 funds. Under the Asset Subrecipient Reporter type, these subrecipients will report to the NTD Asset Module, but will not include operating or financial data. Under the Subrecipient Reports view of the report package, states will now have 2 grids in their dashboard: Managed Participants and Directly Reporting TAM Plan Participants, or Independent Participants. Managed Participants will include existing rural subrecipient types, but will now also include reduced asset reporters or 5310 providers. The report package for reduced asset reporters will include an identification or B10 form and all applicable asset forms. States will complete these forms on behalf of their reduced asset reporters, just as they do for current 5311 recipients. The second table in their report package view will include any independent participants of the state's TAM plan. These independent participants will be existing NTD reporters that report directly to the NTD for their annual reporting, but will be part of the state's TAM plan. The state will have view-only privileges for the independent participants' asset forms. Both group plan sponsors and state DOTs will be able to manage subrecipients through the report package after the report year kickoff. By navigating to Records, NTD report packages, selecting the current report package, and then clicking on Related Actions, you will see a Manage Subrecipients action. On this screen, you can add or remove subrecipients to your package. For state DOTs, this action will now include adding or removing TAM participants in addition to other subrecipients. Please note that all existing 5311 subrecipients are defaulted to show as participants in their state's TAM plan. To add a new subrecipient, you will select Add New Subrecipient and click Continue. Now you can search for an existing subrecipient by selecting a state, which will populate the grid below with available subrecipients, or you can search by subrecipient name in the search field to the right. Once you select the subrecipient, you will then click Add to Selected Subrecipients Grid. You will now see the subrecipient populate at the top of the page under the Selected Subrecipients Grid. If the subrecipient you are adding is new, you can scroll to the bottom of the page and enter the required information. Please note, all new subrecipients will be reviewed by FTA, so you will not see the subrecipient appear immediately in your package. At this point, you will confirm the subrecipient type. Once this is confirmed, you will then have the option to grant self-reporting privileges to the selected subrecipients. Self-reporting is optional for all group plan sponsors and state DOTs. This feature allows subrecipients to log into the system, complete their report forms, and respond to validation. Please note, group plan sponsors and state DOTs are ultimately responsible for the report as a whole. All technical assistance and guidance must be provided to the self-reporting subrecipients by the group plan sponsor or the state DOT. If you are interested in self-reporting, please contact your analyst for further information. For group plan sponsors, the report package view will be similar to state DOTs. You will access your group plan package by clicking the Records tab and then the NTD Report Packages link. Select your current report package and then select Subrecipient Reports. In the Report Package dashboard, you will see your managed participants as well as any independent participants that are part of your group plan. You are responsible for completing all managed participant report packages as well as responding to validation. For independent participants, you will have view-only privileges for asset forms, but you will not be required to complete the asset forms for these participants. The A90 form is the only form you will complete on behalf of the independent participants. Managed participants will appear in the top grid in the subrecipient reports view. You will be able to view the subrecipient name, asset subrecipient status, and the number of open validation issues as well as total validation issues. To view a package for a managed participant, you will click directly on the link with their NTD ID and name. These subrecipients will have a B10 or identification form, which will provide basic information about the agency. They will also have all applicable asset forms, such as the A15, A30, etc. In order to view the forms, click on Annual Forms at the top right of the page. You will now see the report package forms as links. Click on the form you'd like to view or complete. At the bottom of the report package dashboard for each participant, you will also see a link to your A90 form under Group Plan Forms. Group Plan sponsor packages for agencies that also have annual packages will be submitted together. All issues on the annual report must be resolved before submission, as well as all issues with managed participants. Any unresolved issues with independent participant packages will not prevent submission of the sponsor's package. This is also true for state DOTs. All subrecipient and managed participant issues must be resolved prior to submission. If any independent participants have outstanding issues, this will not prevent submission. Group plan sponsors that are also existing reporters will now see their associated GPS package with their annual package when they submit. As you can see here on the NTD Report Packages page, once the annual report is in review, the GPS package will also move into review. When a report is in review, the forms are view only. If your NTD analyst returns the annual package for validation, the GPS package will become available for data entry once again. Group plan sponsors will be closed out once the annual report is ready to be closed out and all issues have been resolved. This concludes our demonstration. If you are a new reduced asset reporter or group plan sponsor, an NTD analyst will be assigned to your agency and will reach out with reporting guidance to assist with your introduction to the online reporting system. Existing NTD reporters will work with their current NTD analyst. If you are a new reduced asset or group plan sponsor, you can apply for an NTD ID using the templates available on the NTD program website. If you do not know who your NTD analyst is or have an NTD ID request to submit, please contact the NTD Help Desk at 1-888-252-0700 0936 or ntdhelp@dot.gov. Thank you for joining us for this demonstration, and let me know if you have any questions.